All right, we have Gerald Meerschaert on the show. He returns to action next Saturday at UFC 248 in Las Vegas, taking on Deron Winn. Gerald, good to see you, man. How are you?
I am fantastic, Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing great. We were talking off air, admiring your beautiful setup here. Very professional looking.
Yeah, it's simple yet elegant.
It is. It's all of those things. And I have to say, I can't believe this is the first time I've had the chance to speak with you in an interview setting. I mean, we met in person in October during the UFC Boston Fight Week, but I'm glad we were able to get this done. How are you feeling as we're 11 days away from the fight?
I'm good. I'm right now up in my water a lot. Really counting calories my last hard push before fight week, obviously. So the weight's on point, body's feeling good. Just got done at the chiropractor, so I'm ready to go.
Before we get into your fight, I have to talk about Saturday because your teammate Paul Felder took part in just an instant classic against Dan Hooker. He would go on to lose the split decision. I had scored it for Felder, but it was a very, very close fight. For me, I'm recapping it. I'm enjoying the action. I'm taking it all in, from a fan perspective. For you, you're watching a great fight, but you're watching your teammate, someone you've sweated with and bled with, go at it in a 25-minute battle like that. What was that like for you watching that fight on Saturday?
Oh man, my heart is always racing when any of my teammates fight. It's like the best and worst thing in the world. And especially with that decision, it was one of those things where it was a close fight. Like it wasn't a clear beatdown for one side or the other, but I've seen a lot of these, quote unquote close fights lately where I definitely have the edge going one way and it happens to go the other way. And it just, again, I don't know what the exact right answer is, but I know there are things that could help. I know more judges could help. I don't see a problem with open scoring. I've heard that would be a problem from some people that claim they've tried it. I'd love to hear why it'd be a problem. And then I think establishing a universal criteria for what are we considering a significant strike? What do we value more moving forward as far as controlling the octagon, or is there some leeway there where you can bait people into stuff, just different things like that?
I think one of the problems people have come up with in terms of the open scoring is that, let's just say two judges score it 10-9 for one fighter and the other judge scores it 10-9 for the other. Maybe that judge feels like he screwed up, so he has to make it up the next time around or something like that. Maybe that's an issue doing it that way. I think it's a good idea to at least experiment with different things. I don't think this is the solution by any stretch of the imagination. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I know I saw someone make the point of like, oh well, if a judge puts up a bad score, stuff will get thrown at them or whatever like that. And my first reaction is, well, I don't know if you've ever been to a UFC event, but no one's really that close. And usually I don't think they give people actual cans or anything, like maybe plastic bottles or cups. So I'm not saying it couldn't be a danger. That was kind of, I don't know. I don't know what, there was a fight I do remember, because it was like Bisping and Brandon Fitzgerald were commentating and stuff got thrown at there and they had to duck and like, I'm not saying that couldn't happen, but I doubt that would happen just from scores. I could be wrong. But there again, you can show the three scores without saying who scored what, which way. Like no one else needs to know what they're scoring. You just need to know the scores in general. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't. I don't care what judge scores which. I just want to know if I'm, up that round or down. And then I think half points would help a little bit because again, like this is another. We've had a lot of these, and I've been in a few of them where like, oh well, I think it's a real close fight. It could have gone either way. It's like, well, if it could have gone either way, why isn't it a draw? Because if it's truly that close, then why aren't we seeing more draws? Because, we got this 10-point must system, and people forget that you can score around 10-10, but it shouldn't be, oh, well, I had this guy a little bit, like I had to pick one, and I'm going to find a reason to pick that guy, as opposed to just saying, hey, if you're throwing your hands up in the air and you really don't have a good grasp on who you think should clearly win the round, just make it a draw then. Like, don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah, I think more draws are possible, and I think that might be an issue with open scoring as well. I think one of the things that's like CFFC tried to do this a few years back where they took three separate judges and they experimented with putting them in a soundproof room and having them watch the fight on the monitors and just scoring it that way without the crowd noise and, without any bias or anything like that, especially when you have like a hometown fighter going. And anytime you throw a punch, I think that'd be a good thing to do. And that would solve the throwing things at the judges problem as well. Just get them out of there. Just put them in a different room and let them watch the fights for what they are without hearing anything in the background.
Right. Yeah. I think, I know I've heard that before. I'm not completely opposed to it. I do think being there live gives you a different perspective than seeing it on whatever screen they're showing. But I don't know if that's better or worse. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of things you can see on camera you might miss in person, and there could be things that you see in person or hear, like the different grunts or impacts that you might not get as much out of on the live feed. So I can see arguments for both sides of that one, but I'm not opposed to trying it. And there again, with the crowd influence, I feel like that's happening more and more with not just the crowd, but the corners too. Because I've even cornering on local shows, I've seen situations where guys aren't really in danger or they're not really executing on the stuff that their corner's calling for, but just because they they throw the punches out there, even if they don't land, the corner's like cheering and celebrating. And then the rest getting closer like something happened. It's like nothing happened. The guy didn't move at all. Like there's no reason for you to even pretend this is a big thing. Or like in Paul's fight, anytime Dan Hooker landed anything, huge uproar. Anything mildly clean, they cheered. But then I listened to the companion podcast that Rogan did, and there was like maybe 2 times that they were like, oh my gosh, for Hooker. But it was like every other time Paul would have landed or thrown a strike and it had big impact, they were going nuts. So I listened to them watch it. And of course, let's not take it for experts watching fights, because it's like him and his buddies drinking, watching the fights, right? But for what I heard listening to that, every other time, at least every round, there were 2 or 3 moments minimum where they're like, oh my gosh, Felder hit him with this. Oh my gosh, Felder hit him with that. But then if you listen to the fight there and watch, there was almost no eruptions for for Felder rather, because he's in Hooker's hometown. So anytime Hooker lands, there's a big reaction, but Paul's snapping his head back with jabs, landing big leg kicks, and no one's making a peep because that's their guy.
Yeah, it's crazy. We could do a whole hour about the scoring and the judging. Have you talked to Paul since Saturday? Have you texted with him or anything like that?
I haven't. I got a hold of my buddy Craig just to see how he's doing in the hospital and stuff, because I figure there's got to be so many people trying to get a hold of him right now. Especially one of our guys that's higher up like that fights. I kind of give it a couple days before I reach out and say something, because I figure A, it'll be lost in the mix, and B, you got to talk to your family first, especially a fight after that. There's a bunch of people that want to get in and get a hold of you about interviews, and depending on how the fight goes, the media stuff doesn't end at the fight. There's still some stuff you got to do after, and you're just thinking about it still, and it's still so fresh. You don't really want to talk about it too much more than you have to. So I always wait a little bit before I try and say anything.
Well said. I agree with that 100%. There is a lot going on with your team. We got Brendan Allen back in action on Saturday, taking on Tom Breeze. Brendan's a guy that just gets better every time he gets in there and competes. How has he been looking as he prepares to make that second UFC walk?
He's looking good. He's made some really good progress, everywhere before this fight. Like you said, he just keeps getting better. He's getting better in the gym, so that should translate come fight night. And he's been, I worked with him a lot for this one, especially for stand-up, because he's fighting a lefty who's a little bit taller. So, he should be ready.
You're not going out there for this one, are you?
No, God, no. I am staying in Wisconsin. Yeah, no, I got to fight the week after, so no, I'll be here.
There you go. That's what I figured. But next Saturday, like you said, you're going to make the walk. You take on Deron Winn, and this is a fight that you wanted, and it seemed like a lot of other people wanted as well. I saw your social media post a week or 2 ago with that meme you created, and you said something to the effect of, someone's been quiet since they signed the contract. So for those who may not know, how did this all begin between the two of you guys? What was the genesis of this rivalry of sorts?
Basically what happened was that before he was even in the UFC, he might have been signed, but he was looking for a fight. Didn't even have a UFC fight yet. And he called out my name for whatever reason, which is kind of surprising to me, because like I'm not in the top 15 or anything or anyone super fan. I got a few fights, but he must have picked my name out of a hat or someone gave it to him, and he started jaw jacking at me on Twitter and like trying to call me out. And I wanted it, said yes, and then my coach wanted to go a different direction, which ended up working out fine because I fought Trevin Giles instead. So can't fault him for that decision. But then he just kept saying how I wasn't really about that life and talking all this shit. So I was like, look, I told him what it was, and I even mentioned after that, like, if I get the chance, I want to fight that guy. So now I got the chance, and since he signed the contract, there's been no popping off at the mouth or anything, which is kind of surprising. You came at me so reckless before, and all of a sudden you get the chance, like you signed the dotted line. Like I don't know if they like didn't give him any other options or what, but now you actually got to back up what you were saying, and you just want to be quiet. It doesn't make sense to me.
Do you, I like going back at your career, I don't remember another time where, a guy was just talking this much crap about you even before you signed a contract. Do you remember, has that happened to you before?
No, at this point, I don't recall ever fighting anyone that really tried to talk any mess to me, like directly like that before a fight or anything like that. I know Holland was like trying to talk a little bit, but like when I saw him and everything, I think that's just kind of his shtick. Like he was a really, really nice young man to me in person before, during, and after. You know what I'm saying? So other than that, like I've only seen Deron in person once in passing when he fought. I was out there for Macy and Brendan in Boston, and he just walked past me and like puffed his chest up, and she's like, "You're not that big." I just laughed. I'm like, "Dude, you barely come up to my chest. What are you talking about? Like everyone's big to you. Come on." And that was the fight he missed weight at. So I don't know. Maybe he thought like was saying that like I'm not as round as he is. I don't know what that was supposed to be.
He obviously came into the UFC with a bunch of hype. He's got the wrestling pedigree. He's the protege of Daniel Cormier. He came in at 5-0, and he had that great battle with Spice Lee before losing that decision to Darren Stewart in Boston. What have you made of Deron's 2 fights in the UFC? Have you been impressed with his skills to this point, being only 7 fights into his pro career?
Not really. I'm kind of surprised he gasses out so much for a guy that's wrestled as long as he has. Generally wrestlers have decent cardio. But, the Spicy fight, he started fading midway through the second, definitely in the third. Darren Stewart, he faded real bad pretty early. So you would think he would have that under wraps a little bit. And I know an AKA is, like, known for training really hard and, like, getting it in all the time. So it was kind of surprising to me to see that. And other than that, he keeps bragging about how, like, he's got these hands and everything. And it's like, dude, everyone you fought other than like 2 or 3 people have like a losing record or almost a 500 record. Like everyone he fought before he got to the UFC, with the exception of Tom Lawler, was pretty terrible. And then he got to the UFC, and him and Spicy, like, for what's worth, they had a good, exciting fight, but didn't take me 3 rounds or 169 strikes to finish that, with the same opponent. So I don't know what he's like puffing his chest for. And then he's like taking down Darren Stewart, and like Darren Stewart's a tough fighter and he hits really hard, but he's not known for his ground game. And you couldn't hold him down, like that doesn't bode well for you. And not only that, he didn't want to take Spice Lee down either because he's a black belt. I'm a black belt and I got like 20-some submissions. So how do you win this fight? That's what I want to know.
How do you deal with the size discrepancy? It's very awkward being you being a typical middleweight, maybe even a little bit bigger of a middleweight. Deron's obviously, much shorter than you are. How do you deal with that size discrepancy?
I've had a lot of guys in the gym give me the look specifically for that. So, and they're all pretty versatile in that sense. And then I have a couple guys that are a little shorter that, fight. Like I worked a lot with JP for this one. He fights similar-ish on the feet to Deron. So that gave me a good look for that. And, we got a couple of guys in the gym on different sparring days. I can work with them just to, like, get the range a little bit better. But it's pretty much one of those things I'm going to be all the way out or all the way in because, like, I love going forward and fighting in the clinch. So I don't care if he wants to be close to me. I'm going to move forward and pressure him and make him tired in that way. And then if he's not close to me, I get to hit him and he can't hit me. So I'm not too worried about it.
One of the big talking points that'll come up during fight week, and you mentioned it as well, is that, Deron's ability to make the weight. I mean, he missed by 2.5 pounds for the Stewart fight. Do you have those questions as well heading into this fight, like whether or not he will make the weight?
I believe he's also working with Lockhart and Leaf this time. So I don't know if it's just for fight week, because I was in contact with the guy that I threw them, and he's going to be there. And he's like, they always let you know, like, it's not a big deal. He's like, hey, just so you know, we're also working with your opponent. And I was like, good, then hopefully he'll make weight this time, So I don't know if he's doing it before as well. I would hope so, considering you already missed weight. But at least for fight week, I know for sure he's at least planning to work with them. So, if anyone can get him to get on weight, they'll be able to help.
If you ever watch my interviews or anything that I've done, I'm a glass half full guy. I'm a very positive thinker, but what if he does miss? How will you handle that?
If he does miss, then I get more money. That's pretty much all it is,
So there'll be no hesitation. You're still going to fight him. Doesn't matter if he misses weight. We're going.
I don't care if he comes in at 210. I'm going to beat the crap out of him. It's like at 5'6", I'm not going to get all bent out of shape over a couple pounds.
Fair enough. Back in Vegas, back on a big pay-per-view card. You get the fight you wanted. How do you see this all playing out next Saturday night? How do you see it all going down?
Man, I see myself going out there and I'm trying to dominate. I don't just want to win. I want to put my hands on that guy. I want to make him pay for even thinking that he had the right to like come try and talk to me like that. Like, I'm probably going to start talking shit to him in the middle of the fight. Like, I'm pretty amped up for this in a way that I haven't been in a long, long time. So I'm excited.
It's so interesting hearing you talk like this. You had so many fights, and do you feel like this one's a little bit personal for you? Since you haven't been in this position really before and have an opponent just come at you the way Deron did earlier on?
I wouldn't. It's not like he didn't personally attack me in the sense like he didn't make fun of my family or something, right?
Right.
I feel like, I'm reacting to it a little bit differently because, I do have all these fights. I do have all this experience. I've fought some of the best guys in the world, and he wants to come at me and he wants to test my gangster real quick. So I'm going to get in there and show him what's what. Like, he thinks I'm softer or something like that, or that I'm not a man of my word. So I'm going to go in there. I'm going to take the young man behind the woodshed. I'm going to give him a whooping, and I'm going to collect my check and go home.
If you ask most people who watch the sport pretty consistently, most would believe, and we kind of touched on this earlier, that you should be on a 3-fight winning streak right now. You shouldn't be coming in losing 2 of your last 3 or 3 of your last 4. You should have won your last 3 fights. I definitely scored the Anders fight for you. I scored the Holland fight for you as well. You've been in this game for a long time. Is there a part of you that feels like that you're fighting for your job next Saturday? Like, do you even put that kind of pressure on yourself at this point in your career?
I haven't been thinking about it that way just because I've been so focused on beating this dude up, like, specifically. But I'd be lying if I said I haven't thought about, like, because this is the thing, you're saying I should be on a 3-fight win. That would make me 7-2 in the UFC. That's a lot different than 5-4. So where my pay would be right now and like where I'd be in the rankings, all that, if I was 7-2 versus 5-4, that's just extra motivation. Because I'm gonna be honest, that stings a little bit. That hurts. Like, that's that's my career and livelihood in a drastically different place than it woulda, coulda, shoulda been in. But again, I can't really think on it too much other than like using it as motivation, because at the end of the day, I had a chance to step in the cage and, make a guy go to sleep or tap out, and I wasn't able to do that. So in that sense, that's on me. I just got to go in there and tear this guy up and, prove to everyone I still got it.
What's the message for Deron Winn a week and a half away for this fight? Like, I'm a big believer that anyone can be watching at any time, and I'm not asking you to go out there and talk a bunch of crap or anything like that, but let's just say he's watching right now. What do you want to say to him before you guys face off?
If he's watching right now, I'm just letting you know I'm going to beat your ass. Straight up. That's all it is. Like, 100% I am beating your ass on March 7th.
Love it, man. I'm looking forward to this one. Great matchup at 185 pounds at UFC 248 next Saturday night in Las Vegas. Appreciate the time, Gerald. Before I let you go, let the folks know where they can find and follow you on the web, social media, any shout-outs, anything else you want to get off your chest, man. The floor is yours.
I'm on everything but TikTok. I refuse to get a TikTok.
Me too.
I'm way too old for that stuff. So if you want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, you Google my name or whatever, I'm sure you'll find it. Other than that, shout out to all my teammates at Rufus Sport and the whole gym. Combat Corner for always supplying me, and the Wisconsin Athletic Club's helping me out a lot, and everybody at Next Level. Appreciate it.
Are you Snapchatting too?
I think I still have an account, but I don't really. Yeah, I'm engaged, man. I don't have a use for a Snapchat anymore.
Yeah, it's different now, I think. I mean, I've never even opened the app, so I have no idea how it works, but I guess it's kind of like TikTok in a way now. It's not like it was before when it came out that you could like cheat on your spouse and things like that, like discreetly. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I try to be an upstanding citizen in that sense, so I'm not sure how that would even work. But yeah, I know people be getting dirty on that stuff, so I stay away from it.
There you go. So fair to say, no Snapchat, no TikToking in the future of Gerald Meerschaert.
That's correct.
All right. Well, I'm with you, man. Thanks again, Gerald. All the best to you next weekend in Las Vegas, and we'll have to do this again. I can't believe this is the first time we've had you on here.
I appreciate it, Mike.